how do you heal from a really toxic relationship where you've been hurt, there's been a lot of abandonment, maybe abuse, maybe sexual abuse? I want to take a minute and really talk to your heart for a second, because I've lived this on a very personal level, but I had to do the healing work because if I didn't, I was going to continue to repeat the patterns. When we're in bad or toxic relationships in our past, it can be really difficult to know if we're repeating those same patterns and step into a healthy, really vibrant, abundant relationship. So I'm gonna share with you some things that I did because I was in a really toxic relationship and I had to heal those old patterns so that I could step into a relationship that actually didn't carry those behaviors forward. I got married at a very young age. I was married in a previous relationship about 10 years ago, and that relationship was 10 years long, and it was actually quite toxic. You see, I was really stepping into a relationship that was carrying some of my wounding, and that's why I was in that relationship. I got married because I believed that it was the right thing to do in a religious term. I came from a family where you got married really young, you didn't have any sex before you got married, so you didn't date very long, and you just stay committed to that person till the end of time. I don't actually have any family members that I know that are divorced. And so here I am, I'm very young, I marry what I think is the good guy, and we get married, and he is kind of the good guy. I mean, he is treating me very well, but I can feel inside my body that things are not right. I remember the first year in, I would just have these private moments where I'd go out in my car and I would just rage. I would be very upset in my body. I wanted out of the relationship, but I'd gotten married, so I was like, I have to stay in it. There's no way I can get out. And then I started noticing signs where no money was coming in, and he would put on a suit and tie and go to work, but there was no money. And so then I was just working more and more, which I'm so grateful for. And I'll get to, all of this was for me. This is not me being a victim. I just want to share my story so you can find your story in mine and really know that I understand these toxic behaviors you may be feeling. And you see, I had gone from being married to somebody that was not a good match for me. I actually got into that relationship because of old patterns, old belief systems that were not serving me, and it ended up being quite a toxic relationship. And so I had to break those patterns to step into what I wanted. And so for me to move forward into the current relationship I get to live in now, I had to really break some of those past traumas, those past behaviors, lineage lines, so that I could actually live in a really abundant, really beautiful relationship that I currently have now. I did a lot of healing work when I got separated and divorced from my first husband. I had to really heal a lot of the patterns, a lot of lineage lines, the unworthiness that I felt inside. And it led me on a path of meeting with different Indigenous tribe leaders, traveling the world, as well as doing daily practices every single day. And I really want to share with you in case you're trying to break patterns, break chains to old behaviors, old attractions, so that you can step into a beautiful relationship that you are trying to cultivate now in your future. I would work really hard just to try to put food on the table. Then a kid came along and you're like, hey, I have a kid now, so I've got to stay committed. I'm not perfect, but I did know that I wanted to have a really powerful connection with my husband. I wanted to attract a beautiful soulmate in my life, one that was not only a great partnership for me, but a great father to my children. And then I had a son, and he passed away, gone through all this grief, and I noticed that during that grief and during that upheaval in my life of losing my son, I was finding myself. I was actually just getting to the point where I was so low and at such a rock bottom that I was like, who is Danette and what does she believe and what does Danette want? I started to not really care what do my parents want or my religion want, what does Danette want, because I was so sad about losing my son. And during his passing, I started to really find myself. Was it gnarly? Yes. Was it incredibly painful? Yes. And this led me, then I now have another daughter, and I start to go and get out of this relationship to find out so many things around embezzlement of money and him taking all the money and so many deceptive things that I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to heal from this. There was just so much that I'm not even going to share on the camera that was so hard. And you know, I want to share what I did to really heal from that, because now I'm in a really powerful relationship that looks radically different than that one. But I had to do the healing work, because if I didn't, I was going to continue to repeat the patterns, because somewhere inside of my system, my nervous system, I was drawn to what I thought was the religious good guy. And that was through my patriarchy growing up. That was through religious conditioning. And I had to really look at that and go, okay, I need to own that. I need to take 100% responsibility that somewhere in my programming, I made these choices. And I need to look at that so I can rewire it to find something different. So it led me on a path of eating healing foods, really like getting my body in alignment through healing foods, moving my body, and meditation. I started to really do meditations, which helped clear out some of the trauma. I did breath work things every single day to really get regulated in my nervous system. And then I started to look at, what are these belief systems that I grew up in, and are they actually my belief systems? Do I believe I need someone who's religious or spiritual? Do I want someone who actually pays and has money and has a job? That was important to me. So I started to write down these things that were non-negotiables for me. And the list was long because I was in trauma. And through me taking care of me taking and making myself a priority, I was able to really start to rewire the old systems that were really kind of brought on to me. And I'm not blaming my parents. You don't blame your parents. They just did the best they could, but usually we're following those same patterns. What do they believe? What is their relationship like? What are the relationships around you that you observed? And I started to just dissect them and pull them apart and go, what do I like and what do I not like? And where can I take ownership that I keep attracting that? And where can I go, oh, I'm going to start to embody and become a different person so that I attract a different partner?